Hey everyone, welcome back to a new video. Today I want to give you a couple of tips on how to better understand native speakers. Alright, before we get into this video, just another quick reminder that I am going to host two French retreats this summer, one in July and one in August. So you have 4 dates to be exact. 1 week in Paris and then the following week in the French Riviera. So it's going to be 1 week in Paris in July and 1 week in the French Riviera. So 2 weeks in total, the same for August. You have all the dates on the website lingotravels.com. Also for signups, everything is on the website lingotravels.com. If you want to know more info about the retreats, check out the FAQ on the website as well and the terms and conditions. And also you can leave comments on here. Any question you might have, also email to hello@lingotravels.com. So let's get into this video. All right, this is another common question I get on how you can better understand native speakers. This is also something I see quite often, that people have a hard time understanding native speakers. When people are learning languages by themselves at home studying, they usually don't have that much of a problem understanding. However, when it comes to speaking directly to native speakers, that's when you kind of think you understand, and that's when you realize you don't really understand. So I've gone through the same thing. For example, I was learning Spanish in school here in Germany for 2 years before I went to actually live in Spain with a Spanish host family. So this was a pretty intense experience because my Spanish classes in Germany were good. But the thing is, my teacher used to speak super slow. Of course, she was not a native speaker, but then also she was just slow the way she spoke. And I've never heard a Spanish speaking person ever speak that slow. So she was really slow in her speech. And I was always thinking, whenever I hear Spanish speakers, they are always usually very fast, very fast. And when I went to Spain, that is exactly what I encountered. People who were speaking just so fast. So I really had to get used to the speed. It was super, super fast. And that was my main problem in the beginning. Not so much understanding the words, but more so the speed of their speech. It was so fast. Everything my host mom was telling me was just da, 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 da. And I would always ask her, can you please repeat? And sometimes I wouldn't ask her, so that would be a problem because there were some misunderstandings followed by that because I wouldn't ask, because sometimes I was kind of embarrassed to ask so many times because she was just speaking too fast. And that is a problem that quite a lot of people encounter when speaking to native speakers, because native speakers usually speak faster than what you learned or than what you are used to hearing, or how you yourself might speak, in the language you're learning. Obviously, in your native language, you're always speaking faster. That's just how it is. So one way you can train that is to watch series and movies. That is my number one tip, really, because when you watch series, I recommend series really, because series are more of, real life situations. Movies are good too, but series are really what I recommend because you can watch several episodes one after another and then learn more and more as you go with the episodes, So I really recommend you do that. Watch as many series as you can, because that will really train your ears to not only hear the language but to also listen to different kinds of speeches. And for that, I do recommend watching also different series with different types of accents, because according to the accent, the speed of the language can also differ. For example, Latin American Spanish is a lot of times much slower than Spanish, like European Spanish. European Spanish is very, very fast. But For example, Caribbean Spanish is also very fast. But for example, if you take Mexican Spanish, it is much slower than European Spanish. The way they speak, it's much slower. So for a lot of people, it is even easier to understand, like for example, Mexican Spanish than to understand European Spanish, because the way they speak is just way faster. It's just high speed. So you could see that with, for example, if you watch Casa de Papel or if you watch a Mexican series, the Mexican series is going to be, the speech there is going to be much slower than, for example, in Casa de Papel. And I've even heard Latin Americans tell me that they even have to watch it with subtitles, also because of some words being different, but also because of the speech, because they speak so fast and they have to watch with subtitles as well. A Colombian guy told me that he has to watch Casa de Papel with subtitles. So even if he has to watch it with subtitles, then you of course too. So the thing I want to really point out is to get used to the speed of the language and get used to how the language is pronounced by different accents, by different people having different accents, you know. So also within one country, of course, people can have different accents. But if you, for example, take Spanish and you listen to Casa de Papel, you watch Casa de Papel, how they're speaking, and you watch a Mexican series, you watch, for example, Narcos, it is much different, and you will see a different, the more you incline your ears, the more you train your ears to listen to that. So this is one thing to train when you want to understand native speakers. And if you have, nowadays people don't really watch TV that much anymore, but for example, also news, watching the news, I used to do that all the time when I was first arriving in Spain. I didn't understand the people because they were speaking so fast. I used to always listen to the news and so many different types of TV shows, reality TV shows. Even though they might not be good, but they really train your ears to understand how people speak. Series and movies are good, but the best really to understand how people speak is watching reality TV, because reality TV, as it says, is kind of the reality, not always, of course, but I mean in terms of how they speak, it is how someone would speak that you meet at the bar. The news anchor doesn't necessarily speak how someone would speak at the bar, of course. So that's why you need to get different kinds of media input where you can listen to different kinds of speeches. Another thing, of course, is also to get a language partner whenever you can. Get someone to talk to and make them understand that you want them to speak as natural as possible, you know, because a lot of times people tend to slow down when they think that you don't understand them, when they know that you are learning the language. Of course, that helps in the beginning for them to speak slower, but at one point they need to really speak at their natural pace, because you need to get accustomed to that. If you always just surround yourself by people who tend to slow down in their speech, that's not really that good, because I used to also say that to my friends all the time, you know, just because they're speaking to me, they shouldn't slow down. It's like when someone is just learning English, or when you hear a foreigner speaking English, usually you slow down, you know, for them to understand everything you're saying. But at one point, it is even better for you to just speak your normal pace, your normal speed, and that person can train like that. So the more you train your ears to really listen to the normal speed of speech, the better it is, because that is when you will easily then understand native speakers. A lot of people do not understand native speakers because they're just simply not used to hearing native speakers speak. So for example, if you're watching a series of movies, that's not always the case how native speakers speak in terms of the speed. So that is why that helps. So that's why I always recommend watching reality TV or some kind of interviews, you know, things like that, where real life situations, kind of where you hear people speak in their real speed and how they pronounce things. And then of course get different kinds of accents, so you're used to different kinds of accents. You're used to hearing words being pronounced differently. For example, Argentinian Spanish, you know, they would say, instead of like I in Spanish, they would say, in Spanish is yo, they would say sho, you know. So next time you hear sho, you know, oh, that's Argentinian. For I in normal Spanish, it's yo, you know. So that's just the accent that is different. But if you're used to hearing different accents, then you will definitely recognize it. And another way to understand native speakers better is to simply just ask them what they said, ask them to repeat, learn common sentences and words, filler words that you can use to ask them, you know, perdona, puede repetir, just simple phrases you will always need in order to ask them what they just said, if they could repeat, you know, so nobody would ever just say like no. So if you learn those phrases, usually you will always get by in whatever situation you are, and whenever you need to understand what a native speaker just told you, just ask. That is really the simplest and best way to understand native speakers. And another point here too is also to speak again yourself. You need to speak out loud things that you hear, because like that you will also train to pronounce the words and also to hear them at the same time. So if you're used to just listening, for example, to music or movies, watching movies and series, and just listening and not really speaking, not really actively, you know, getting involved in the language, then of course it's much harder to understand native speakers. But the more you also train yourself to speak, the easier it is also for you to recognize sounds, to recognize how words are being pronounced, because you yourself pronounce them. So that is also one tip I can definitely give. Those are the main tips to understand native speakers better. If you have more things, then definitely leave them in the comments below. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.